A very good morning to everyone present here. We shall begin now. I welcome you all to the introductory webinar of the Rosalind Franklin Distinguished AI+X project series. I am Rishita Umashankaran from BMSc IEEE student branch, and it is immense pleasure to be the host for today's event. We are delighted to have you all here today as we embark on a journey to begin and seek the power of AI+X in solving real-world problems. To begin our session, let's start with a short introduction about the project and its objectives. This project series is a collaborative initiative between the Eekigai Institute of AI, BMSc IEEE student branch, and the Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering. It is inspired by the Japanese concept of Ikigai. This project series combines cutting-edge AI technology with domain-specific knowledge to address pressing challenges. We firmly believe that AI, while incredibly powerful, needs the expertise of the X factor to effectively solve complex real-world problems. This X could be any field or domain, such as agricultural sciences for food scarcity or urban planning for traffic congestion in Bangalore. By bringing together AI and the X factor, we can create holistic and impactful solutions. On this note, I shall invite Mohit Jain to deliver the formal welcome address. Over to Mohit Jain.
Thank you, Rishita. Good morning to one and all present here. I'm Mohit Jain on behalf of BMSc IEEE student branch. Take immense pleasure in delivering the welcome address for today's introductory webinar, the Rosalind Franklin Distinguished AI+X project series conducted by the BMSc IEEE student branch in collaboration with the Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering and Eekigai Institute for AI. This webinar aims to honor Rosalind Franklin's legacy while exploring the intersection of artificial intelligence with various disciplines denoted as AI+X. In an era where AI is transforming industries, bridging gaps, and creating new possibilities, we are excited to delve into the potential of AI+X and its implications for our world. Collaboration lies at the heart of progress, and today's event is a testament to the power of partnerships. The BMSc IEEE student branch, the Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, and the Eekigai Institute of AI have come together to create a platform that fosters knowledge, sharing, encourages innovation, and sparks meaningful discussions. Firstly, I would like to welcome our beloved Principal Dr. S. Muralidhara, Vice Principal Admin Dr. Suresh Ramaswamy Reddy, Vice Principal Academic Dr. Bhimsha Arya, who could not join us due to unforeseen situations but sent across their best wishes. I would also like to welcome Dr. Rajeshwari Hegde Ma'am, the head of the Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, for her constant support and guidance throughout, who couldn't join us today as well but sent across her best wishes. I would also like to extend my heartfelt welcome to our esteemed resource person for the day, Dr. Suhas Srihari Sir, who is an Assistant Professor, Department of Electrical and Computer Science Engineering at the University of Tennessee, applied mathematician, research scientist, Oak Ridge National Lab, the United States of America. Sir has also won the 2018 IEEE Young Author Award, the SIAM Society for Industrial and Applied Mathematics Award, and many more. It is an honor to have you with us today, sir, and I hope the participants gain a lot of knowledge from you today. I would like to extend my warm welcome to our branch mentor, Dr. Balachandra Kesar and Dr. Geetashri Mishra Ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of Electrical, Electronics and Communication Engineering, for taking time off their busy schedule and being a part of this webinar today. We are very glad to introduce them as our project mentors as well for this project series. I would also like to extend my heartfelt welcome to the faculty members for gracing us with their presence today. To the participants, I encourage you to make the most of this opportunity, engage actively, ask questions, and immerse yourselves in the enriching discussions that lie ahead. Together, let us explore the frontiers of AI+X and uncover innovative solutions that can shape a better future for all. Once again, I welcome you all to the Rosalind Franklin Distinguished AI+X Project Series webinar. May this event ignite our collective curiosity, drive our passion for knowledge, and propel us towards a world where AI in synergy with other disciplines creates a positive and transformative impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohit. I would now like to take the opportunity to request Dr. Suhas sir to kickstart the webinar and take over the presentation. Please take
Well,
over.
well, thank you. That was really kind and gracious. But hang on. Firstly, you got to let me know if you can hear me correctly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because we tried it, but you never know with these things. Let me share my screen. Okay, let me know if you can see this.
Yes, sir. It's clear. It's on the first slide.
Perfect. Okay, I'm really happy to be here, and it is not as sunny as it looks in my background. It's 2:20 in the morning in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I live. But I'm excited to be here, and thank you for the introduction. Thank you for showing up. I know it's a Saturday. You have plans. Maybe you're heading off to lunch right after, but hopefully we can talk about something meaningful. Um, and um, okay, so who is in charge of the timing? I don't know how much because this is a WebEx meeting, so I think it has a counter that started at 1 hour or something, or 1 hour and 10 minutes. So can somebody tell me how much time we have?
We have another 2 hours in the WebEx meeting, but you can take your time.
Okay, good, good. I don't want to go over. But anyway, in any case, I'm excited to be here. I just want to thank, everybody at BMS. The IEEE student branch has been like so gracious that they've been in touch with me. They're trying to make this happen. They're trying to spread the word, and they're giving me feedback. And I just want to say I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
And
sir.
it's been a while since I've met with the leadership team at BMS, the principal, the vice principal, and everybody. So I know they're not here, but I still want to thank them because I mean this wouldn't happen without BMS getting involved. And Rajeshwari Hegde ma'am has been incredible. She taught me, so we've known each other for I'm old. I'm 35, so we've known each other for like I don't know, almost 20 years now, close to 20 years. And she has been so supportive. So just grateful for a lot of things. Okay. So the reason you guys are here is because we want to start something that hasn't happened before in BMS. And it doesn't matter which semester you're in, this is for you. Okay. I'm gonna start with that. There are no entry barriers to this. I don't care what your grades are. The only thing that matters is you're here and I'm here, and we could do something meaningful with whatever you study and whatever you haven't studied yet, but to make a difference in the lives of people. Because if you don't apply, I've been exactly a student like you have been. The only difference is maybe your curriculum is a little different, and VTU is still VTU. BMS is, I think, autonomous now, which wasn't the case when I was a student. But apart from that, I don't think much has changed. Typically, you have a book, you study from it, you have internals, and you have labs, and you don't have a minute of free time to think about why you're doing this. Apart from maybe you're going to get a job. Some people have clarity that, they're going to study like beyond their undergraduate degree. Some people have a clarity that they want to work for Google or TCS or whatever. But in any case, why are we still doing this? Because hopefully we can make an impact in somebody's life. Okay, disclaimer, if you hear a small bark or groan, that is my dog. I have a small 3-year-old Maltese and a poodle mixed dog, and this is typically his sleeping time. So he's kind of on my lap. He's not very happy, but I told him this is for the good of humanity, so he's kind of cooperating right now. Okay. So what does distinguish mean? In general, okay, so this is from the first slide, okay? Rosalind Franklin Distinguished AI+X Project Incubator. Um, so not a lot of people know me on the call, but in general, my first philosophy is you've got to mean the words you write. So each one of each one of these words has a particular meaning, and I just want to talk about it just a little bit so that you know what you're getting into. Why Rosalind Franklin? We'll get to that in a second. But I'll tell you what distinguished, according to me, means. It's not a term for me or for you or your faculty mentors or your parents to feel good about. There's nothing to feel good about it. Distinguished in general means you distinguish yourself from something else, from somebody else. So in a sense, I'm asking you to be different, but not for the sake of being different. One of the first things is none of the exams we have, this is not a conversation I'd like to have with you because we can't do anything about it. And this is true not only in VTU, not only in BMS, but pretty much everywhere. This is true with our current education system, that undergraduates are typically not taught how to apply whatever they study to solve real world problems. You guys will do that, but not in undergraduate school. Typically what happens is you go to a company and then, the reality hits you like 1,000 volts because this is not what you prepared for. So we got to change that. Too many people complain about it, but nobody wants to do anything about it. So let's try to change that. That's the first thing. That's one way this is going to be different. This is not going to be a recycled project for the sake of it. This is going to be a longer project than what you've been used to. If you're in your sixth semester, I don't think there are many 8th semester students on the call, but if you're in your 8th semester, you've done a project already, I think. If you're in the 6th semester, you've definitely spoken to people who have, but this is not like that. This is going to be longer because if you want to do anything meaningful, impactful, I don't think 3 months in a semester is going to do much. So it's different that way too. And at the end of this, there are certain promises that I can make and some I don't make. One of them that I can make is that you will become leaders in what you do. Because I'm going to make you do certain things as part of your project on a daily basis. So you will have to lead certain things. Leader means a lot of things. Either you inspire other people, but mostly you lead by example and you take ownership. You have a small, so this happens when you join a company. This happens when you join a large research group in graduate school if you want to study further. This happens everywhere in real life, that you take a small thing. Let's say you get married and you have kids, or you get a dog like I did. In any case, you're responsible for that kid. You take ownership, not in the technical, you don't own anybody, but you take ownership for their welfare. Nobody else is going to do that for you. So we're going to do the same thing except with our projects. We take ownership of a small part and you execute it to the best of your abilities, and then you're going to be proud of it. And along the way, you are going to get frustrated. You're going to get demoralized. You're going to wake up thinking why you're doing something that you're doing. This happens. I would be surprised if this doesn't happen. This happened to me countless number of times when I was in graduate school. And it only means that you care. It means multiple things. First, that you care about it. And second, that you're putting a significant amount of effort into it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be questioning. The third thing is the intended outcome is actually impactful. So if you ask yourself, am I doing anything worthwhile? It's because you know that if you did it correctly, it's going to impact people in a positive way. You just don't know if you're doing it the right way. But those will come and go. The faculty mentors and I and the IEEE branch, I mean, we're all going to be there when that happens. And this has happened to all of us. But another promise is at the end of it, if you put in your work, you will succeed. What it means to succeed, I think it's something that we collectively decide once we kickstart the projects. But one of the things is you will make a difference for real people. it's oddly very, very satisfying if somebody comes up to you, some real person, doesn't matter who it is, comes up to you and says, thank you. You changed my life. And I'm not kidding. This has happened to me, and this will happen to you too at Rosalind Franklin. And another caveat is I don't have a great memory, which means that I've always been very anti-memorization. So you will not do that here. In reality, what happens is when you work, there is nobody to say, unless your company like blocks Google, which nobody does, you can access everything. With ChatGPT on the scene now, you can basically ask ChatGPT to write everything you want. It can generate answers much better than I can or you can. But that's fine. Instead of saying, when I was, maybe this was like even before BMS, I think. Well, I studied in BMS, if that wasn't clear to some of you who may have joined late. So even before that, I think people, forbid me from using calculators. I don't get it. I can do, a decent level of mental arithmetic. I'm not great at it, but I survive. But I don't get it. Why not use something? You know what calculators cannot do? They cannot find out the 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 amount of quality food a malnourished child in Northern Africa needs on August the 5th. What is August the 5th? Typically, I mean, Africa is pretty huge. So typically, in a lot of parts of Africa, in July and early August, there's famine. And people are trying to get from one day to another, walking 10 miles a day just to get some water. So that is the context. So, and also, they're living on about $1 a day. That's about 70, 80 rupees a day. On government grants, on United Nations support, and they don't have much agriculture in a lot of parts. Tanzania is a great example, where you still have the Maasai tribe. And the Maasai tribe have they do something very weird, which is they drink the blood of cow. In India, for a variety of reasons, cows are sacred, but to them, they're not. They're a source of food. So why I'm rambling on about one particular example is that there are cultural differences. If you're going to be citizens of the world, they're not asking you to do them, to eat whatever they want, but you need to understand what their culture is. Where are they coming from? Are they coming from a famine? Do they do agriculture? What kind of cattle, what kind of livestock do they have? Do they have clean water? How much resources they have? This is a very complicated socioeconomic problem, which involves optimization, and it involves random variables, because why random variables are basically probabilities. Let me just put it that way. Because it depends. Okay, so for us, for you and I and a lot of other people, I can plan a month out on my food, and I don't need to worry about it. I can just say something like, this month, I'm so busy, I'm going to get food delivered every day of this month. And I just need to click a button or two, and that works. You guys have Swiggy, so that works. Or you have parents who can cook. Whatever the solution might be, we can plan a month ahead or more. For them, that's not true. They can only plan at most one day ahead, because the next day they don't know how cloudy it's going to be. Why is that? Because you typically think you have weather apps, you have Google, and you have Weather Underground, and you have so many of those apps. What you need to remember, I'm trying to inculcate this habit of trying to become a holistic engineer. or a scientist, whatever you want to be. But you need to think in terms of a lot of different variables, which your books don't teach you. But this is real world. Why can't they predict if the next day is going to be cloudy or not? They have a reasonable way of figuring it out, but it's not perfect. The reason it's not perfect is in a lot of places, in a lot of urban places like Bangalore or where I live, um, you have many sensors. You have meteorological stations, and then you have sensors. So in a lot of places in the world, you don't have those sensors. The only thing they have is satellite data and historical data that they have observed in the past sometimes, but you don't have active ground-based sensors. So that screws up what you can predict and what you cannot. So based on all of these, what is a kid who is 7 pounds underweight, is 4 years old, what is she going to eat on one hot day, August 5th in Tanzania? That's a real problem. So that is the context. Who the heck cares if you're going to open your book or if you're going to access Google or take out a calculator or use ChatGPT? I don't care. All I care is you make the best use of all the information you have and put together a solution so that that kid can eat. So that's another way this is distinguished, because you're going to learn to apply data and information instead of remembering everything. So all this to say, distinguished is not a fancy term. It's not something you're proud of. It's a responsibility because we're being distinguished different for a purpose. Okay, so what is this whole thing? So I started something called Ikigai, and true story is that when I wanted to make a website for it, I couldn't find the one that is actually spelled Ikigai with an I. So the correct spelling of this is Ikigai, which is a Japanese concept. Okay, so that's my dog going. So, okay, I tried my best, but something woke him up. I'm sorry. Okay, so Ikigai is a Japanese concept that has a deep bearing in terms of how we live, um, which I'm going to explain in a future slide. Okay, I might have to come back, so just hold on. Okay, sorry about that. Can you still hear me? This is Snoopy, by the way.
Yes, sir, we can hear you and see him.
So that's the 3-year-old who woke up in the middle of the night and is not happy. But sorry about that. Okay, so Ikigai is a combination of this Japanese technique along with electrical engineering, which is why you have 2 E's in the beginning. It's just a philosophical ramble, not that you care about it. And so this is in conjunction, the Rosalind Franklin projects are in conjunction with BMS, obviously, and it's been led by the Telecommunications department initially. Although that could change as more and more departments get involved, the leadership could change. But right now, very thankful to telecommunications engineering. And the other one important thing about these projects, like it was said in the introduction, these are not AI projects. These are AI+X. And the X is this additional, like the magic masala for like Maggie noodles, I think, like you have this additional zing, without which it's not the same. And we'll get into it, what the X means. And okay, finally, why Rosalind Franklin? Because most people remember Watson and Crick, right? Because they got the Nobel Prize in physiology or medicine, and they discovered the double helix structure of DNAs. So a lot of what we do. So what has happened since? We've understood how um, you know, genetic deformities are caused. We understand how we can actually change your DNA, change the genetic composition using CRISPR. And I mean, you can talk about it for an hour, but so much has happened ever since. So this is like a milestone for humanity. I would think this is one of the people say like Einstein, right? Okay, Einstein was probably a very smart guy, but how many of us understand what he did? It's relativity, sure. And the closest thing that has an impact on your life and my life because of Einstein is your GPS. Um, your GPS would be off without Einstein, but so many things would be off if we did not understand the DNA. So, according to me, I think it's one of the most revolutionary things that humanity has ever come up with. And the actual lab person who did the scut work on this, who was responsible for diligently doing experiments, understanding why things behave the way they do. Why do I look like my dad? Um, my wife's grandmother has diabetes, and we've been cutting out sugar, added sugar, for the most part. Why should we do that? Why do we care? We care because we know my wife is at a higher disposition to diabetes because of her grandmother. So this is real impact. And Rosalind Franklin, the forgotten genius who worked so hard on this, was snubbed by Watson and Crick, who's kind of, I would go as far as saying they stole the prize from her. And firstly, I just want to honor her because that's the right thing to do. And secondly, I want to say at Ikigai in this project series with me, that will never happen. Every contribution, every single one of you is important, and you will have your own little thing that you'll take ownership of, and you'll be proud of it at the end of the day. And your contributions are not going to be forgotten. So that's another promise that I can make. So that, I mean, so we covered Rosalind Franklin and distinguished. Okay. And AI+X, that's the next part. What the heck does that mean? I am tired of it. Um, when they hired me to be a scientist for the US federal government at Oak Ridge National Lab, it was kind of cool. They wanted me to lead efforts in AI. But at the end of the day, I still don't know what AI means. That's just a pity. Because when I was growing up, um, I watched the first few Terminator movies with Schwarzenegger, and I thought that was AI. Well, for a long time, that was AI, artificial intelligence, right? And and then what happened is because we could never achieve it until maybe like ChatGPT came along, it was pretty bad. We didn't have anything good. We had logistic regression, we had random forest, XGBoost, neural networks. In neural networks, there are only a few things you can do. People who have like start working on it will probably realize there are only a few things you can do. You can control the architecture of that a little. You can probably decide how many neurons you want to use in each layer and how many layers do you want to have. Deep learning is basically it's the same neural network, but you have people want to make it sound cooler, so you have neural networks that are long, that are deep. You have way too many layers, and some layers do certain things. Yeah, there are convolutional layers or whatever. You have recurrent layers. You basically have like 5 to 10 different things you worry in neural networks. The activation function and the how do you update the weights and so forth. And then at the end of the day, your network stores a lot of information in terms of the weights of the network. It's not really learning. It's trying to memorize what all of these algorithms do at the end of the day is they're trying to memorize solutions that work for a variety of test cases. If they memorize the solutions 100%, then you would say it's an overfitting problem. Again, I'm not giving an AI talk, so I don't want to get into it. But if so, I think all of these, AI models or algorithms have gotten so good at memorizing things without letting you know that they're memorizing it. I think that's where the genius of them lies, I suppose. But I'm not impressed because I do work in AI on a day-to-day basis. That's the thing that pays my salary. And while people call it data science or machine learning or deep learning, or they have like so many things that they call it by, whatever it is, I think it's just fashion to use it. And I always make this joke. Nobody laughs at it, but I think it's funny that if we had AI in the 1600s, which is the 17th century, right? I don't know when Kepler lived. Johannes Kepler, I think, lived in the 1500s or 1600s, maybe. And all this like people, Tycho Brahe, and the same group of people. Um, if you had AI back in their generation, you would not have had Kepler's laws, or you would not have had GMM or R squared, which is the Newtonian version of the relativistic gravitation. You wouldn't have had any of those laws. All you would do is you would take a picture of the night sky and feed it to a computer, and then it says, with 94% probability, I'm going to compute that Jupiter is going to be here. Who cares? Because right now we can compute that with 100% probability, with no uncertainty, because of Kepler's laws and a few other things. So what is the point I'm trying to make? That if you rely on AI for every little thing, it can be suboptimal. It is not the solution that you're going for. But in a lot of cases, it is helpful because AI solves so many things. Right now, actually, like today, okay, well, hang on. You need to understand this because I'm in the East Coast, I'm in the eastern part of the United States right now. So for me, I still think about it as Friday. So in the elevator, I met this guy who's working on artificial hearts for different people. But depending on their previous history and blood type, they can use additive manufacturing to make exactly an artificial heart that's going to fit the patient. Because oftentimes what happens is when you put something in, your body can reject it as a foreign body and not accept it, and that would be disastrous. And there are so many people. There is an agency in the U.S. called UNOS, and that's the agency where you get all the organs from. If you're doing a transplant, somebody's moving towards a heart failure, they have like 3 holes in their hearts, their ventricles are not functioning, so they are put on this list for a heart transplant, and they're at the mercy of some other person with a perfectly good life dying all of a sudden, so that we can bring their heart and harvest that and put it in this patient's heart. So literally, when you have a patient with a ventricular failure, you have their spouse and their kids crossing their fingers that somebody else is going to die at the right time so that they can get their heart. And that is a very sad state of affairs. So, but with AI, you can additively manufacture hearts that work exactly for the patient. No need to wait, no need to keep your fingers crossed so some other innocent person has to die for you. So AI does a lot, but also there are shortcomings because they could never do this if they did not understand the biology behind it. And we would never understand the biology if we had AI in the 19th century or the early 20th century, because without AI, we actually understood a lot because we didn't have the luxury of just saying, well, I'll download a dataset from Kaggle and let my algorithm do its magic. We would never have understood anything. Now is the perfect time to have AI, but not all the time in the history. So I'm making a case that AI is indeed powerful, but it's not everything. You do need domain knowledge for a lot of things. For instance, that, you drop a ball like from the top of a building, it's going to fall exactly at the rate that you can calculate. And that's immensely useful. If you did not know that, that's one equation, okay? But if you did not know that one equation, you need 200 ball drops and put them in a tabular table and then sort of get an approximate solution. So why do you want to do that when you can get something exact? So this exact solution of the things that we know, the accumulated knowledge of human history, is X. So an AI plus X, that's the X. Now, okay, let me try to move this a little. I don't know. I don't know if you guys see this on the screen too, or the floating thing with my face on it, which is extremely annoying to look at. Okay, so we are going to learn the X. That's not part of your curriculum because like BMS or VTU might offer, but BMS is an engineering school. And so we don't learn things like audiology or agriculture or how the human vision system works. We don't learn those things. But as part of the project series, we're going to learn whatever it takes to do what we want to do to make a difference. Because without it, if you're just going to do AI because everybody else is going to do AI, how satisfied are you going to be with your life where we're importing a Python package, you're downloading some code from Kaggle, you're making some changes so nobody thinks you're copying it, and then you break it into branches, and then you merge it back into the master branch on GitHub, and then you call it a day. We don't need more of those people. We have plenty of those. But we need you to combine the X, the magic sauce, with the AI and do something revolutionary with it. And here are 6 examples. I'm very open to ideas. If somebody wants to work on a different project, if we gather enough steam, if a lot of people want to work on it, of course we'll work on it. But right now, I just made a list of 6 different things that we could potentially work on. First thing is let's start close to home. A while ago, I gave you this example of children struggling in Tanzania in Africa. But let's look closer to home. Bangalore. So if you go a little north, in North Karnataka, I wanted to put a picture of this, but I threw the slides together in a hurry. Okay, I'll admit that. So these slides are not as nice as I wanted them to be. So I wanted to put up a picture of barren farmland in northern Karnataka. My wife is from this tiny city called Belgaum, and so it's sort of close to my heart. And you go there in the summer, like even north. I think it's a place called Bidar, I think, or all those places. You see barren lands in the summer. Indian summers, like probably like late February, March, and some parts of April. And it's cracked up because we are not snow fed. Our rivers depend on rain, and now we have global warming. So it's very messed up. But what can you do? So okay, all right. So you it's a much harder problem to make it rain. Although you could do that too because you have cloud seeding. But it's an easier problem to figure out what can and then I'm not going to say this. It's your homework to go back home and Google how many farmers commit suicide every year in northern Karnataka, a few hundred kilometers from where you're sitting and listening to this stupid little webinar that, some guy's talking about in the comfort of your home. You're probably going to eat gobi Manchurian or whatever. I said that because I'm craving it. The Indian food here is horrible. But you have nice lives. And just a few hundred kilometers from there, people are dying, literally committing suicide. So we've got to stop that. We can't let people die. And if you don't know how agriculture works, beyond saying they plant a seed, they water, and then they do the harvest, and they toss in manure or fertilizers or something. What is the economics behind this? Because you have problems with pests, so you use pesticides. You have a problem with the nitrogen content in the soil, so you toss in a fertilizer. Now, the issue is plants have the different plants, by the way, have different rates of absorption. A mango tree absorbs the same chemicals that you use for manure and fertilizers and pesticides differently than a pomegranate. And it's different from potatoes. You know why potatoes are different? Because potatoes are actually root plants, which means they grow under the soil. And that makes the absorption rate much bigger. And okay, what about strawberries? Because strawberries grow pretty close to the ground. We don't grow strawberries in India, as far as I know. I could be wrong. But so my question is this. So you've heard of things like organic and non-GMO. Why is that important? We are going to think about every little single thing because we're not going to gloss over everything. So my title for the talk is an example of that. If you're going to say it's a distinguished series, you've got to define it. That's the way I work, and that's the way you guys are going to work. Okay, so why organic? Because in the United States, probably also true in India, is if you buy anything that's organic, it's a little more expensive. It's like 10 to 20% more expensive. So why are you doing that? And what is the problem with genetically modified food? Because if you genetically modify food, it might be more bacteria resistant. It could be more pest resistant, so you don't have to use as many fertilizers. What is the other alternative? By the way, everything is genetically modified at this point, almost everything, except that the question is who's doing the modification? Okay, so you got to think about every word and understand to the deepest possible level who is doing the modification. So a lot of things get modified because of evolution. Why does that happen? You have three different types of potatoes, okay? Like potatoes have the same genetic variation that we do. Why do I look different from all of you who are sitting in Bangalore? Because I'm a different person. Potatoes have the same thing. One potato is different from another. And there are some genetic markers which make that a little different. And and potatoes also undergo mutation the same way that humans do. So there are random changes in the DNA. There are copy errors, and some copy errors, the same copy errors which give us diseases as bad as cancer, there are some other copy errors, which are mirrored forms of them, which are different, but they make us stronger. Why are some people lighter skinned than other people? It's the same thing, because they didn't need all that dark skin because they moved to Sweden or Norway from Africa. And obviously it's not very hot. So your vitamin D requirements are different. So it's such a fascinating field when you start getting into it. That's the X part. So because you can take one sentence that you think about or that I say, and then you can dissect it till the very end, at which you can say, I understand this. And therefore our solution needs to be this way for maximum impact. So some potatoes actually, because of genetic mutation, random mutations that happen in nature, evolved to be more pest resistant than others. That is genetic modification. That is GMO food. But the labels don't say that. GMO, especially in the US, has a very bad reputation. People don't want to do anything with it. People think, oh, somebody modified my food so that, like they can control me. Like Americans are sometimes very stupid. But sure, some genetically modified food can be bad, but you got to figure out what exactly it is. So can we genetically modify something to help the farmers? Can we use natural selection to help them? What is the best combination of crops that they can grow? People talk about crop rotation all the time. Um, I mean, you understand crop rotation means you're going to grow different crops on the same piece of land, um, but at different times. Why? That's okay. In general, that's a good solution, but you still don't know exactly. And farmers obviously know a lot more than you know or what I know. That is true, but they still are oblivious about a lot of science a lot of times. So how can we help them? Because if you grow certain types of crops, then the soil that's left behind is not good for a different variety of crops for the next 3 months. And it takes its own time to replenish itself. And then, of course, like in northern Karnataka, you're not going to get rains and you're not going to grow anything for like 4 months. So this touches very closely to the idea of hedging when you're dealing with stock markets. Because okay, so you're going to go into a recession. You know there is a recession coming. It's this equivalent of saying you know there is a drought coming or there's going to be famine. But what can you do about it? It's not that easy. So what you do is you buy, I mean, this is not financial advice. So generally when you hedge to financial instruments, you're buying stocks which are very different. So you're buying pharmaceutical stocks, but you're also buying something very different, like renewable energy, because that's the future. So the idea is not everything is going to fail at the same time. That is very, very rare. That doesn't happen. Usually one thing fails, but something else picks up. And so in terms of financial hedging, what can our farmers do? What crops can they grow? What seasons should they grow in? And how much of something should they grow? The one problem, it's not really a problem, it's just a different way of thinking about it, is in the US, for instance, there are far fewer people than we have in India. As a result of that, and also, so in general, I think the United States is 3 times as big as India is in terms of area, approximately. And India has 4 times more people on it, approximately, right? So if you assume a uniform distribution of people in the country, which is never true because you have concentration of people who live in all the cities. And so if you do assume a uniform distribution, then you're saying India has 12 times a higher population density than someplace like the United States. As a result, the US has more natural resources, it has more farmland to grow. So I think most of the farmers here have at least like 1,000 acres of land. Our Indian farmers don't have that much. Some farmers just have 3 acres of land because that's what their dad gave them or what their mom gave them. So what do you do with 3 acres? Sometimes economics makes sense if you have 300 acres and you can grow peanuts in them, and that works out great. Awesome. The same economics don't hold if you only have 3 acres. Not because you just can't divide it by 100 and say, well, everything works the same. It doesn't, because of something called nonlinear functions. So do we understand? I'm just going into a little bit of depth because something as simple as agriculture, which we think is tossing the seed, tilling the soil, watering it, some manure, fertilizer, pesticide, harvest, sell. It's way more complex than that. So we need to understand that's one example of X is agriculture. And then my grandmother is hard of hearing. It pains me that um, when I make bad jokes or jokes, she doesn't laugh at them. And I don't know because the jokes are not very good or because she can't hear me. And she's only 84. I mean, 84 is old enough, but the problem is I don't think it's old enough for somebody to be very hard of hearing. And that hurts me. That pains me. So everybody has had people in their family. If you get old enough, obviously hearing's a problem. Can you take something like your AirPods or whatever kind of things you stick in your ear, the Bluetooth earpods, earbuds, earphones, whatever you call them, can you modify them to understand the hearing signature, the profile of every single person individually? Because my hearing's good, but I think it could be better, because I think babies at 1 year old, I think they have the best hearing, which is why there's this expression called baby ears. And now I have a reference with my dog Snoopy, who has incredible hearing. His My vision is better than his vision for certain things, but his hearing and his smell sense is incredibly more powerful than mine. So everybody has a different hearing profile. And when people come with hearing aids, they're like, okay, we're just going to fine tune it. For those of you who have taken electronics courses, um, people, if you're familiar with different kinds of filtering in signal processing, like band pass filters or like low pass or high pass, you can combine those filters and then create some sort of a profile. What that means essentially is, um, when I speak, I have a certain range of frequencies that my vocal cord resonates in, and therefore the air around me has a certain frequency to it. When my grandma speaks, because she's a woman, her frequencies are a little higher. We have overlaps, but they're a little higher. And so if you want to shut off all the high frequencies where, somebody's driving on the street and they honk the car really hard, that's a very high frequency sound. So you can cut that off using your hearing aids, because you don't want hearing aids to screech inside your ears. You can use different kind of filters, something like a low pass filter, which means it passes all the frequencies in and it cuts all the higher frequencies out. The lower frequencies get in, the higher don't. These things are not perfect, but you can work out some solutions. So basically, that's the current state of art. It's only a little better than what I described. I oversimplified it a little bit, but it still doesn't take into account exactly the hearing profile of the person. So I don't know. This is like 2023. I don't know why we don't have that technology, but we can change this. And then so I have this weird fantasy, but I don't know if many people share this, but I have a few things that I love to eat. And especially because I don't have a lot of Indian restaurants where I live, it's probably why I feel this way. Um, I have a certain, for example, I love khichdi, and some days I'm so busy that the only thing I can do when I come back home is take Snoopy out for a walk, um, get him like peed and pooped out, because that's non-negotiable. He's a kid. I take care of him and feed him, and then go to bed because I don't have time to cook for myself. And sometimes I get the worst food around me and I don't feel like eating. So I want to eat a particular type of khichdi, but there is nobody to make it for me. I don't have the time to make it, and there are no restaurants here that make it. So, but what do you exactly need to do it? You need some sort of lentils, I guess, a combination maybe. You need rice, you need some vegetables, and something for your seasoning, okay? And then maybe some vegetables. That's about it. So, most of these Indian restaurants, except maybe for lentils, they have everything else. So why cannot they make it? That's a big question mark to me, because they have all the equipment. It's not hard to make, but they don't make it because they only make the things that are on their menu. They have 75 things listed on their menu. That's all they make. But they have almost all the ingredients to make almost anything you want. I keep saying almost because, I'll get to it later, maybe. But if you have enough ingredients, can you mix them together? So I don't know when the last time you thought about Cartesian products. This is why this is such a beautiful idea, this AI+X, because it brings together everything you've studied, everything that people need, everything you can think about creatively. So Cartesian products are basically a single collection of two or more sets. sets of different things, which which combine, and this goes into combinatorial mathematics. But essentially, what I'm trying to say is, what are restaurants? Restaurants are a collection. They're a Cartesian. The menu on the restaurants is basically a Cartesian product of all the inventory that they have in terms of ingredients, okay? And then the inventory that they have in terms of equipment. So for instance, if I want to eat some sort of like pakoda or something, and of course they can't make it if they don't have a deep fryer. So that's an equipment they need. If I want to eat something baked, if I want to eat a cake, if they don't have an oven, sure, they cannot bake it. But assuming that they have a lot of these things, so which is why the inventory of equipment, the inventory of ingredients, and the people who can make them, if you take the Cartesian product of these three things, you can create a lot of different types of food, not the 70 things that are on their menu. You could basically create an infinite number of things. And it takes for them approximately the same time to do it. So can we actually make a restaurant where anybody can order pretty much anything? I mean, you always put an asterisk and say almost, because you don't want to get sued. Anything close enough to what they want. Okay. And then I was fortunate enough when I came to BMS, my family, when we moved back to India, my family got a place that's very close to BMS, in BSK third stage or someplace, I think. And so my commute was really, really short. It was like it was about a mile from the school. So, but I knew a lot of people in my class who traveled about 2 hours to come to college, and they were exhausted by the time they got here, and then they were exhausted by the time they went back home. So they couldn't do anything. They couldn't like do their homework. They couldn't spend time with their family. They missed their favorite show. They couldn't enjoy the food. It's horrible. And then now I think it's gotten so much worse. Every time I come to India, it's okay, I don't want to say exponentially because that's wrong. I think it's polynomially worse, the traffic situation. Okay, so if you can take satellite pictures from as simple as like your Google Earth satellites, or we can actually get better satellite pictures because there's this company called Maxar. They apparently rent out some satellite equipment. You can basically get some images from it. And if you can get satellite pictures, and if you can tap into Google Maps API or any open source maps, and if you lay sensors on the streets of Ring Road or wherever you go, what can you figure out about traffic? We all complain about it. There is a metro. The metro doesn't go everywhere though, because I've tried it. And but it's still horrible. It's horribly congested in a very predictable pattern. And there are multiple solutions. You can widen the roads. All right, there are going to be more people who are going to buy a car. But what can you do in terms of telling people, hey, this is the best time for you to drive from this point to this point, or take an alternative route? Google Maps does a little bit of that, where it tries to reroute the traffic depending on traffic conditions. But in Bangalore, it's not very good. Because we don't have clear markings of this. Is very similar to something in wireless communications where you think about channel capacity. If you have one channel that has some sort of bandwidth and capacity, how much information can you send without that information getting mushed together and lost and lossy, basically? So can you combine all of these wireless communication ideas and optimization and satellite imagery and come up with a better way of analyzing our traffic situation and the pollution that it causes? Okay. And the next one is something just really close to my heart because I always wanted to get it, but there's no product like it. If you're interested in it, go back home, or your home probably. Google this thing there was a company called North, North, like the direction north. It was a Canadian startup company in a place called Waterloo, and they used to make these smart glasses. Sort of like, I don't know, some people might have seen the new Apple Vision Pro. They just released it, or like a HoloLens from Microsoft and Google. There was Google Glass for a little bit, and they closed it down. But this is not like that. This is like the glasses that I'm wearing, these glasses, but with a little bit with a small projector on the sides, you can actually project information, AR information on the glasses. This company North, I think, did the most perfect job, and Google bought it because they were so successful. And the very next day, they closed down the company and they killed the product. I have no idea why they did that, but it was a phenomenal product. And now imagine that you don't have to be distracted looking at your screen somewhere else when you're driving, when you're on Google Maps. I mean, this is one example. Imagine there is a factory worker who needs critical information about how to operate a machinery, but he or she cannot move their head because the minute they move their head, they're distracted. They've got to keep their eyes latched on the tiny little thing that they're working on, but they need this information. So you can project all this like AR augmented reality information on your glasses, but you need an understanding of vision. So what is your focal length? What is your field of view? What is the kind of curvature and the reflectance of the lens you need in order for you to see this without getting transmitted? So basically what happens is you have this thing right on your glasses. They project information from there into your glasses. And if you do this incorrectly, most of that information could actually leak to the other side of the glass. So, but you need it to reflect. You need it to be like a mirror, but it's not a mirror because you're using the same exact glass also to see. So it has to be a mirror in a sense that transmits. So you need an understanding of optics and vision to solve this problem. But I think it would be super cool to make that work. And it's the last thing is I don't think anybody should be homeless. Before I moved to where I am, I lived in San Francisco, one of the most beautiful cities. That is again so close to my heart because San Francisco is where I grew up. It's my home, as much as Bangalore is. And from my childhood, I remember it being just the most incredible, beautiful city, right next to the Pacific Ocean, where all the whales used to come. Now they do come, but it's not the same. When I was little, the whales used to come on their migratory patterns, and now because of climate change, that's deviated a little bit. But and then you have mountains on the other side. It's this most incredible city, and now it's filled with homeless people, people who served the United States military, giving up their lives, putting their lives at stake, and now they don't have a place to live. And a lot of them are drug addicts because they have PTSD from the war, so they don't want to live inside of mental institutions, and they just don't have places to live. And what about like the slum dwellers? I don't know how Shah Rukh Khan deals with it. I'm happy I'm not him. I don't have the money or the fame or anything that he does. But the best thing about not being Shah Rukh Khan or what's the other guy's name? This Ambani guy is that I don't have to live in this mega mansion that's 27 floors high, seeing the plight of all the people who can't sleep in their cozy home at night, exposed to the elements. That's just very sad. So what are the possibilities? Well, one thing is you can definitely use additive manufacturing or whatever you do, or even simple construction, not even additive manufacturing, and make tiny buildings. Small thing, only with like 6 feet by 7 feet by 10 feet. Okay, so that's a cuboid that I just defined. And how can you construct all of those remotely in a factory and then bring them over and join one or two or more of them to make a tiny home? you should be able to do that because this is a question of supply chain, optimization, and building construction technology, and you combine them and you get the solution where you can build modular homes at very reasonable prices. Some people do a little bit of that, but we don't have exactly the solution. So we should be able to do that. And because it's modular, it means that you only have to assemble at the final site. You don't have to build everything there or build anything there. And the other advantage is you can get them manufactured in mass, and the economics of that tell you that you're going to get bulk pricing on it, which means you're going to save a lot of money constructing them. And so that is the final project. But I mean, this is not meant to be an exhaustive list. You can come to me with anything you'd like to work on. If enough people want to work on it, we can make that happen. But I mean, I just wanted to give a flavor of what the Rosalind Franklin projects are going to look like and why it's important that we work on these. Because as engineers, the education you're getting, the intelligence you have, and your parents love you, and this is a privilege, and you're a BMS. Sometimes you think, why am I not somewhere else? Or why am I doing engineering? Forget about all of those things. You're here right now. I mean, so like do the best you can, right? And you have incredibly supportive people. The faculty mentors are going to be by your side. I'm going to be here, so we can make this magic happen. This is a little out of order, I think. But in any case, I just wanted to just so some of you might have seen things about Ikigai, but the reason for the name Ikigai is in Japan. Japan's a strange country, okay? And they have a lot of like cute principles and they live by it. There are people in Okinawa, which is one of the blue zones. If you don't know what a blue zone is, like go and Google it. Or basically, okay, let me tell you, it's one of those places where a lot of people live up to 100 years or more, or close to 100 years. So these are like enormously long-living people who are healthy and happy and have like meaningful relationships and friendships, and they have a purpose in life. So when these people were studied, the Japanese people realized that firstly, they don't have they for the most part they don't have a concept of retirement. So if you do what you love, that's the first thing, which is why there are more projects than one in the Rosalind Franklin series. So because so some of you might be more interested in the agriculture project. Some of you might be like, okay, let's try to get like the homeless people taken care of. Whatever you want to do. Some of you might be like really good at machine learning. Some of you might have great organizational skills, and others might be, like you want to go into politics, maybe. I don't know. You could definitely do that, right? After the engineering degree. So you're going to be great liaisons people. So there is something in for everybody, because we need a variety of people to make these things happen. So find out what you love. And then, but unfortunately, this is a very nice distinction that the Japanese people did. What you love is not necessarily what you're good at. I'll give you one example. I love chess. I love tennis. I absolutely love both of them. I watch every chess championship, um, and I'm not very good at it. Okay. I'm good at certain other things. I think I'm reasonably good at I think, okay, so after so many years of cooking for myself and, being outside of India, I don't know if I'm a good cook, but I feel like I'm a good cook. I cook well, I think, or my taste buds are horrible. One of the two. It's something that I think I'm good at, but it's not something that I necessarily love to do as for a living. That's why I'm not a chef. And then not only that, does the world need something? And not to put a ding on things. Okay, now I'm going to say something controversial. Um, Do you want to be a musician? Does the world need music? I would say yes, because people need sports and music and all those entertainment things because they're enormously powerful things for different people. Um, do you need calligraphy, the art of writing, really pretty? I don't know. But so it really depends on what you think the world needs. But whatever you do, make sure the world needs it and something that can sustain you. Actually, I think their wording was something you can get paid for. I just changed it a little. Something that can sustain you. Let's put it that way. Um, for instance, if you want to be a woodworker, sure, the world needs like wooden things, right? Furniture, and you might be good at it and you love it, but if you only get paid very little for it, then maybe it's not. I'm not saying it's not the right choice. Maybe it's not the right choice for you. Somebody else might do it. So if you find the intersection of all these different spheres of your life, at the at the core of that intersection is where your ikigai is. And it's not an easy thing to find what that is. For myself, I think over the past 10, 15 years, I'm fairly happy with what I'm doing. It could be better. It could definitely be better. But I've gotten closer and closer and closer, I think, over the years to finding what my ikigai is. And I think that's essential to being happy with your life. So I think so that's true even for the projects. So what is your contribution to the world? What can you contribute to Ikigai when you do the Rosalind Franklin projects? Are you good at it? I mean, you might love to program, but if you can't write one line of error-free syntax code, then you're probably not good at it. But you can learn for sure. Um, so try to find that Ikigai, or like come join us, come join the projects, and we'll figure that together. But that's an important component because you need to be happy doing what you're doing. This is not out of compulsion. Okay, so that's why we have that name for the institute that I started. And okay, hang on. Okay, let me wrap up soon. Okay, so the project structure, we can get into this in more detail at a later session, but I just wanted to just give you a basic idea. I envision that each of those projects, the 6 that I listed, plus whatever you guys want to do, I think ideally would have somewhere between 20 and 30 students on every project. And the duration of this is about 4 semesters. And there are obviously some students may drop out. We don't want that to happen, but I realize, it's real life and that could happen. Particularly if you're in your 3rd year, I think it's a 6th semester right now. Sure, you're probably looking at you're taking your like GREs or GATE, or you're starting at a company, or you're studying for IAS, whatever you are going to do. You're going to get distracted. You have your final year project, so you're going to be a little distracted. So maybe you're going to drop out after a year. So I don't know. But in any case, so I hope you try to stay for as long as you can. And for those who complete the entire project over 2 years, so you're going to get a gold tier certificate. It's a name. Okay, it's like a star you can wear. But what that really means, and okay, I'll get to it. I'm getting ahead of myself. And I have been told, I don't. It's like talk to other people, like Rishita or Varun or Mohit or whoever. Talk to those people who are actually in BMS and talk to them about course credit. But all I know is you're going to get something, but I don't know the details of it. And so we are looking for every project, 3 or 4 leaders who take care of different things, because we're going to have the structure of a startup. And the idea behind this is after 2 years, we can actually make your idea into a startup with Ikigai, which is why, going back, okay, hang on. I don't know why this keeps doing that. Okay. Okay, we covered Rosalind Franklin. We covered the word distinguished. We know what AI+X means. I described to you what projects we have. The final thing, incubator. Okay, let's get back here. What that means is at the end of 2 years, when the project's done, we're going to have something called an MVP or minimum viable product. This is not like, things that float in the air. You do something and then you get out and say you did a project. I got a gold tier certificate. Like at the end of the day, nobody cares. So you're gonna have a minimum viable product, and at the end of it, I'm gonna get venture capitalists to come attend your presentations, and I'm gonna get people from the Indian Institute of Science and some from IIM Bangalore. And so there's going to be a panel consisting of all these external people who matter. Um, and so if you want to pursue like graduate studies, or if you want to start a company, I want you to have the option of doing that with Ikigai. So that makes Ikigai technically an incubator, because we are incubating this project for a time period of about 2 years. And at the end of it, hopefully, if you want to pursue it, we can actually make it a full-blown startup. So you can have a company at the end of it. And okay, so when you actually graduate and go and work in a company, you're going to have people approximately your age, maybe a little older. You report to them. Doesn't mean they're better than you are. They've been longer in the company. They're older than you are. They know something else that you don't know yet, but you will get there for whatever reason, or just for logistical purposes, right? You need people who are, you need some hierarchy, not too much, but you need people. If something's failing, um, from a data science perspective, who is the one person that I can talk to? Because, like, imagine my situation, right? I am here, so many thousands of miles away from you guys, and I don't want to ping like, 15 of you on the data science WhatsApp group and say what's happening. Nobody's going to respond, or everybody's going to respond. I don't want that. I want one person that I can ask, and hey, what is happening? So from that perspective, so this diagram tells you there is going to be a research lead, a development dev lead, a social and logistics lead. In reality, it could be a little different from this, approximately the same thing. But research would mean, if you go back to the AI+X part, the X part of it, like agriculture or vision or audiology, you need to do some research. You need to understand a lot of things that I just described several minutes ago. And so that's the research team. So we're going to have a research team, and there is going to be a lead for it. The development can be further broken down into data science and data engineering, and you could potentially have two different leads for it, but you could also have just one lead. And data engineering is the part where you worry about a lot of different things. How do we store the data? Where are we going to get the data from? So the data science team, you all work together. Okay, so there are a lot of back and forths. The research team says, okay, this is what we understand. And then the data science says, well, okay, well, making a model for that kind of, research plan is very hard. So can we modify this? Okay, they agree on something as long as you get the data for it. But where can you get the data? Sometimes you don't get the data on the internet all the time. Sometimes you get crappy data on internet because it's free. So who does the data collection? And what kind of data do you need? Where do you store it? Who curates the data? Because you can't just like, data is noisy, right? You have, in the real world, where nobody gives on a silver platter your data on Kaggle.com, it's important that, because you're free to collect whatever you want. So who decides which variables are important? So, which is why you have a data engineering, and then you have data science that works on the actual neural network or whatever, or isolation forest, or you have like 152 techniques. But so you have different teams, and each team has a leader. Okay, so once we have the teams working, there is going to be a chief advisor, whatever you call that person, or one mentor. whatever you call, I'm just going to call it chief advisor. I'm going to be the chief advisor for one of the projects for sure. I don't know if I have time to be on multiple projects. And that's fine because there are other very capable people. Um, I think I don't want to speak for anybody, but I think Rajeshwari Hegde ma'am can be chief advisor for one of the projects. Again, I don't want to make any commitments on her behalf, um, but that's something that I remember in a conversation with her. And then there is going to be a council. So you're going to have, let's say you have a machine learning problem. You're stuck. So who do you ask? You can ask me. Sure. Um, but I'll tell you something very honestly. I am not a data engineering person. So my data engineering advice to you would not be of great quality. And I don't want that. Okay. So it's very important to be crystal clear about what I'm good at, what I'm not very good at. And the same thing for every one of you. So that, that helps you keep it's like a reality check. So we need faculty mentors, and the IEEE branch and the telecommunications engineering, they're trying, and like different branches actually are trying to make that happen. So in general, you're going to have for every data science task, doesn't matter which project you're in, as long as you're in the data science team of any of these projects, you will have a dedicated small group of faculty mentors for data science. You will have a dedicated faculty mentor base for data engineering. And liaison. Liaison is basically my fancy word for social and logistics. So, for instance, if you are working on the traffic problem, and then we are buying some sensors and putting the sensors in different parts of the city, they're going to arrest you and take you to prison, I think. Well, I don't know how Bangalore works, but if you do that here, they're going to take you to prison, and your mom's wondering why their favorite kid is not home for dinner. I don't want to be responsible for that, so somebody has to talk to the police, and talk to the lawmakers or your BBMP or whoever it is. Okay, so you need a liaisons team, and so the council is also going to have one or two faculty mentors who can say, well, I can make you connections. Like this is okay. In this problem, you need to talk to BBMP, so go there. So just to give you some general guidance on all of those things, and the X mentors, the last one is the most important thing, which actually might be from outside of BMS also. For instance, audiology. I don't well, or human vision. I don't know if there are anybody at BMS who's an expert. I am not. Okay. So you might have to speak to an optometrist. So maybe we can get a contractual agreement with them so that they can help you. They can dedicate some hours every semester, and then you can ask them questions, and then you can work with them. But you need somebody qualified. These are the ex mentors, and then there's going to be some field trips. And I actually am recording a small series of classes in AI and ML. So that's just like a crash course, and that's going to be provided free of cost to every person who participates in the projects. It's not going to be extensive, but it's going to be enough that it motivates you and gives you an understanding of what different techniques lie and when you're using what kind of techniques and what the limitations. So just to get your feet wet, and then you got to study on your own. But I'm going to be here for any type of like Q&A or any support. And at the end of it, we are getting publications from them. I'm a very big believer in publications, and you're not going to publish in some like international journal of green frogs and brown tadpoles. I don't care. You need to publish in a very respectable place, which when you go out into the world, when people say, I publish in IEEE transactions on signal processing, for example, when you say that to people, they understand what it is. When you say to people, I published in NeurIPS or computer CVP or computer vision and pattern recognition. I'm just making up some names which are in my field, but you always have respectable journals and conferences in every field. We've got to identify that and publish in top places, which will actually be beneficial for you. Undergraduates typically don't publish in very good places, and we've got to change that because when you go to graduate school, if you want to go to graduate school, that's going to be a distinguishing factor for you. You're going to stand out like crazy because everybody gets the same amount of scores. Like grading is like a hit or a miss. But if you have like a top quality public peer-reviewed publication at the end of it, you're going to stand apart. And the other thing I like to publish, which is more from a humanitarian perspective, is everything that we do has to finally be free and open source and publicly available to everybody. Now, there's a little bit of a caveat. Um, in general, I adhere to all those principles, except if you're doing a startup, in which case we'll have to patent first and then publish. But that's a minor detail. We'll work it out. And then, like I said, you're going to get some VCs and like people from the IASC and IAM Bangalore. And so this is serious work, right? At the end of it, I want you to get something substantial from it that's going to change your life. These are the same things. Okay, I don't want to read this. Basically, the slide says, okay, like be a part of this, great things will happen. Okay, I'm bored of this slide. And so apply, talk to your local IEEE branch, and I think they have I think they're coming up with an application, I think. The application itself is going to be straightforward. It's going to ask you questions like, how good are you with Python coding? And what do you want to do? Do you want to manage a project? Do you want to be a leader? Are you good with signal processing? Are you a sciencey person in general? All those things. And that's just for us. And then it's also going to list the projects, the 6 projects we have. And then there is going to be another field where you can enter your own project if you want to propose a new one. And so that, and then you can choose, you can mark your preferences. If you don't want to be in a project, you can leave that blank. If you want to be in a project, you can mark that as number 2 because it's the second most interesting project for you. But you have a number 1, which is something else. And so this helps us to basically try to place you in different groups in different projects. Okay, but there is going to be an entrance test to help us with putting people in the right place. And the structure is that it's going to be a 90-minute test. Okay, hang on. Okay, it's a 90-minute test. It has multiple choice. I don't want you to guess, which is why there is negative marking. If you don't know something, leave it blank. Don't guess something. And so you're going to be grouped by semester. So the second semester students don't really compete with the fourth semester, and they don't compete with the sixth semester. Obviously, the higher the semester you're in, you probably know more than your junior people. Typically, there might be exceptions. So we don't want it to be unfair to anybody who's participating. So regardless of whether you're in second or fourth or sixth or eighth, whatever it is, we will have a place for you. We will assure that every second semester student will be given a chance. We will have some sort of a quota for different semesters. And it's going to get scored the same day. And it's open book. Like I said, I don't believe in memorizing. So you get everything. The only thing I forbid you from doing on the exam, on the test, is talk to other people, because it has to be your effort. Apart from that, you can do whatever. I believe you're going to get free food. That was the thing that I asked for. And yeah, it's going to have 3 parts: data science, data engineering, and domain science. You're going to get all the formulas and equations and all the theory. Everything's going to be on the exam. So you don't have to memorize anything. It's not going to be hard. You're going to have fun. Okay, so that's it from my side. And back to Rashita. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. We're truly privileged to have you a part of this project series, guiding us towards such meaningful and impactful outcomes. In an era where AI is transforming the industry around us, bridging gaps and creating new possibilities, we are excited to delve into the potential of AI+X and its implications for our world with the beginning of this project series. Now, we would like to open the floor for any queries or questions the participants may have. Feel free to use the chat box as a medium. If you would like to unmute, you can please mention that as well. Now we are open for queries. There's one question, sir.
Right. So after year one, we are going to get some sponsors. So I spoke to a few companies here in the US. I'm trying to get American sponsors for prototyping and other expenses because the dollar goes a lot farther in India. So if I can get somebody to give us $10,000, I think that's 800,000 rupees or 8 lakhs, right? 8 lakh rupees. So yeah, so we are going to get some American funding for these.
Thank you, sir.
Hang on. These people are like, why are you guys so silent? I
So
have
it's
spoken for like,
it's a webinar, right? So the attendees can't unmute until we give them permission to.
oh, okay, but they can type though.
Yes, yes, definitely, sir.
Okay, so let's do a small, okay, on what basis will projects suggested by the applicant be scrutinized for acceptance? Um, um, there is, okay, firstly, um, okay, it's ad hoc. Okay, I'll be honest with that. It's not very ad hoc in the sense that it's not a random number picker. And it has to be of local relevance, and it has to be extremely interesting or useful. These are all mumbo jumbo words. I don't know what extremely useful means, but just be reasonable when I mean, you saw my projects, the ones I proposed. So make something very different and unique or useful. And we'll talk among the faculty mentors in the IEEE branch and what all we can support and come up with that list. So on the day of your on the day of your application, after your application, we just need to make sure that we talk again. We showcase all the projects, the 6 plus whatever you're suggesting, and make sure that all of you know what that final list is. And then once your test is complete, um, you can choose the projects. So on any of those final projects, if you have a minimum number of people, let's say, I don't think any of these will be successful if you have less than, I don't know, 15 people, because it's really hard to work on these mega projects. And any of the projects you suggest, if they get more than 15 people to sign up for it, sure, that could be a final project.
Thank you, sir. Any other queries? Please use the chat box.
Oh, so the domain, okay, so the question is for people who are not looking at the chat, what are the domains of questions in the entrance test? Because first years will have very little knowledge on many domains. So there are 3 parts to the entrance test. One is data science, there is data engineering, and the last one is like domain science. The domain science is going to look like this. I might describe to you the migratory patterns of blue whales and their lifespans, and when they have kids, the scientific equations for global warming and how it's impacting the migratory patterns. And this is going to be like a 1 or 2 page essay that is given to you, and then you answer questions that are based on it. the questions are not going to be like, whose migratory problems are we talking about? I used to have questions like that. Blue whales. No, 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 no. These questions are such that you're given all the information about a neutral topic, assuming no prior knowledge about it. We just want you to draw scientific inferences from the information that's given to you. So it's going to be 100% self-contained. And the same thing for data science and data engineering. So with regards to your concern that first-year students will have less knowledge, that is, on average, I would say that's true. That is true. But then, like I said, the first years only will compete against other first years. So we're not making them compete against third or second years. So that's unfair, which is what I meant by semester grouping. So hopefully, it's going to be a fair process. And so hopefully that's going to be okay. But even for the data science and data engineering questions, you're going to receive a packet of information with the exam that explains to you about the questions and the equations you need and the concepts you need. So I'm not going to test you on those. The test is only going to be on how well you can apply what you've read, on what I've given you. Okay. The next question is, I've heard of political constraints of releasing a new product to market or research papers. For example, if my idea has potential risk of defeating Apple Vision Pro in the cost margin, how can this problem be dealt with? Okay, waiting for the entrance exam. Okay, that's awesome. So so Karthik, thanks for the question, but you've got to educate me a little on the political constraints of certain things. If you mean something like big companies squashing smaller players, that's not going to happen as long as you're in isolation. And that's not true because, especially in the United States, there are new companies that come up all the time. And that is not going to happen. And I also doubt we are not going to come in this specific. I know this is just an example, but we're not going to do a better job than Apple. I don't mean to be pessimistic. I'm just being realistic. If you have 30 students working on a project for 2 years, as opposed to 1,500 employees at Apple paid, each one of them being paid 2 crore rupees a year, equivalent, for 7 years, we're not going to do a better job. But what we will do is do something absolutely different that most companies don't care about. So most of these are very humanitarian facing, like you saw. Some of those are not very. For instance, maybe you can think about the smart glasses project. That's, I guess, the most, and the restaurant project, I think, are the most more commercial ones. And typically, you don't have a lot of competition in the restaurant space because that's sort of like a new idea. The smart glasses space will have a little more competition, but you'll still be, as long as you're with an incubator, you will still be in sort of an insulated environment. And Ikigai is going to deal with those sorts of problems. I don't know what political constraints are. I just don't know. I'm sorry. But I'm happy to read up more about it and understand that a little better. But keep the questions coming. These are excellent questions. Okay, in the meantime, I think somebody might be typing something, but in the meantime, let's do one last experiment. I know it's kind of getting late. I'm gonna bring up my slides, just the AI+X page where you see all the projects, and just put in the chat, all of you, what project numbers or what projects you're interested in. Okay, so that way we have some idea even before the entrance exam and everything, that what people might be interested in. So we'll see if that works. Okay, just to jog your memory. So these are the projects. Agriculture, audiology. So you can just say 1, 2, 3. You can count them. So if you say 4, it means the optimization thing with the traffic. I'm going to leave this on for 1 more minute so you all can take another look at it, and then I'm going to stop sharing again. Okay, I see options coming in. That's exciting. I see a lot of 4s. These are people. Mohit Pudar. I butchered your name. I know, I'm sorry, but it feels like you traveled from like somewhere far because you put only 4 in there. I'm getting a lot of 4s and some 5. Okay, that's good. 2 and 4. Okay. All right. 15 more seconds and I'm going to stop sharing so that we can wrap this up. I see some I see some 5s. Yep, smart glasses. So these are all people. All these people saying 5 are like me, I think, like those who wear glasses, because they did not listen to their parents when they said, "Don't watch the cartoons from so close." Well, that's what happened to me. 2 and 4. Okay, I'm getting some audiology. That's good. Okay. All right. I think we've had enough response. Well, okay, let me stop sharing. Okay, so okay, so I don't know how this works. So Rashita, is this going to be saved? Is this going to be saved in the transcript, the chat?
We can save it, sir, at the
Can
end of the
you?
meeting.
I mean, we're not going to hold them to it, you know. I mean, anybody can change their mind, but this
Yes,
is just to get some initial impressions.
we
This
can
is
keep a note of it.
Yeah, this is amazing. So this is very encouraging. So in any case, I think yeah, you can also, like I said, you can propose more topics, and we'll see the best that we can do to support them. But do we have any faculty on the call?
She's not available right now, sir, but she was
No.
present. Right.
Oh, who was?
Geeti Shri ma'am from ECD department.
Okay. Okay, there is one more question. There is a massive void within the Indian Army for robotic-based projects which can be used by troops to minimize collateral damage or carry reconnaissance. Will this organization be willing to encourage projects? Definitely, yes. Yeah, Siddharth, that's a great idea. And yes, we'll have to define it, but that can definitely be on the list. And we can definitely make prototypes to raise funding. So one thing about this is, in general, robotics. Yes. Well, can somebody unmute
Yes,
Siddharth?
sir. Give me a second, sir. Can you unmute me? Yeah.
Thing is that I have been exposed to the domain of the Indian Armed Forces for a fair amount of time. And I've been exposed to what lacks within Indian Armed Forces. I've spoken to quite a few officers and everything. And they've explained that in certain areas where the Indian Army lacks is automated projects or automated devices that can be used by the troops to reduce, actually exposing troops to fire or the volley of fire or whatever. So I've spoken to quite a few people, and they say that the Indian Army the government as well has invested in startups for DefTechs, that is, defense tech startups, to encourage people to start creating projects for the same, for the things that I've just said. So, I mean, I've been trying to contact people that I can, but quite hard to find people to, guide or to find the right people for the same. So that's why, I just wanted to ask whether this organization would be willing to,
Yeah.
encourage
Right.
me very easily.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, I honestly think that's amazing. And I mean, if we can save people from dying at the borders, we definitely should do that. Because I mean, we can sleep at night because of them. So, we should definitely try to do that. I think the way that's going to do robotics in general is a little tricky because it's not cheap. So the way we need to approach that problem is to get some work done the first 6 months or a year. And then in the meantime, Ikigai can contact funding agencies specifically for this. You said the Indian Army might also fund some startups in this space in defense technology. So we need to find the people and make that happen, but 100%. Because I don't know if you guys have seen in general, well, that's a problem with path that involves like path planning and a heavy dose of reinforcement learning and material science and communication. 'Cause you got to figure out the range for communication and everything, but that's going to be a super interesting project too. Thank you.
Because, I mean, it's, again, really sorry, but because from whoever I've spoken to, there are quite a few officers who are saying that, why aren't engineers actually trying to genuinely build projects for the Indian Armed Forces for, to help troops within the Army, Navy, or the Air Force for the same. Because such projects, because there was one, there was a certain startup that tried to implement this, but it didn't. I mean, I know of one which couldn't do it, where it was more or less a robot which had tracks as the mobility factor, and they had a weapon installation unit on it. They also had a camera, that is your IR camera, on it. They also had a self-destruction unit on it. So it was a very holistic robotic unit which was being able to use behind the wall to reduce collateral damage and to reduce exposing of troops to actual fire on ground.
Sure. Why do you know why it did not work?
Again, I'm not very sure why it didn't work. I don't know whether it was funding or whether it was rejected as an idea. But I just know that someone, I think a group tried it for about 6-7 months, but yeah, it went down the drain. I mean, it wasn't accepted.
Right. So for the entire solution, this is more complex than some of the other projects. So what that means is this has got to be an extended amount of work. But what we can do for sure in the incubator is get enough work done so that we can go to VCs and the Indian Army or whoever wants to fund this. Because if you go to them with an idea and say, well, this is what we want to do, it's very hard to get funding. You got to show them some prototypes and show them that you've thought about the problem deeply and like do interviews with them which is where the liaisons team is going to come in and try to understand what they need, because otherwise you're going to build like solutions in the air, like who cares about them. So like you said, speak with them and understand what exactly they need and build prototypes. So I think Ikigai can cover the part until you build prototypes. And then I think at that point we need to get proper funding to branch it off into a startup, a complete startup. But it could definitely be done.
Thank you.
Another idea from Sarori Kulkarni is this: AI can assist in identifying waste hotspots, optimizing waste collection routes, or predicting overflow landfills. Yeah, that's that's a great idea. That's I think like technologically very similar to I think number 4 on the list, which was traffic analysis and management. I think it's not the same. I'm not saying it's the same project, but I'm saying you would approximately need the same skill set to work on this idea. And so maybe this is something you, instead of making it a completely different project, maybe it's something you could even combine with number 4. But we could definitely do that.
If no one has any more queries, I think we can end the Q&A session for now.
Good. Okay. Thanks for participation. This was great. I appreciate all the feedback and the participation.
Thank you everyone again for your active participation and the engaging questions. Your enthusiasm is truly inspiring. And now, as we near the end of this webinar, I would like to invite Disha Lohia to deliver the formal vote of thanks. Over to Disha.
Thank you, Rishita. Good afternoon, everyone. I, Disha Lohia, on behalf of BMSc IEEE Student Branch, take immense pleasure in standing here today to deliver the formal vote of thanks for this enlightening webinar on the Rosalind Franklin Distinguished AI+X project series conducted by BMSc IEEE Student Branch in collaboration with the Department of Electronics and Telecommunication and Eekigai Institute of AI. First and foremost, I would like to extend my gratitude to our principal, Dr. S. Mullidhara Sir, and Vice Principal Academic, Dr. Suresh Ramaswamy Reddy, and Vice Principal Admin, Dr. Bhim Shah Sir, for their constant support and encouragement. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Suhas Srihari, for dedicating their time and expertise for the webinar. Your unwavering commitment to sharing your knowledge and experience has truly been inspiring. Your guidance has not only provided us with a solid foundation, but also ignited our curiosity to explore further. I would also like to thank Dr. Rajeshwari Hegde ma'am, Head of Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Department, for her constant support, which has been instrumental to our progress. I would like to thank our beloved branch mentor, Dr. Balachandra K. Sir, and Dr. Geeteshwari ma'am, Assistant Professor of Department of Electronics and Communication, for taking out time off their busy schedule and providing their guidance and support for this webinar, and as project mentors for this incubator. Geeteshwari ma'am conveys a sincere thanks to Dr. Suhas and Ikigai Institute of AI for rendering such opportunities for BMS students. I would like to thank the Department of Electronics and Telecommunication and all the faculty members for their invaluable presence and support. I would like to extend my appreciation to all the participants present here. Your presence and active involvement has added immense value to this webinar, creating an atmosphere of learning, inspiration, and collaboration. Thank you once again to every one of you. Let us remember that this webinar is not just a momentary gathering, but a stepping stone towards a brighter future. The introduction of our project session sets the stage for progress, innovation, and collaboration. As we depart from this virtual space, let us carry the inspiration and insights gained here and translate them into action. Thank you once again.